Professor Theo Merrick adjusted his telescope on the balcony of his beachside cottage, the salt air clinging to his dark curls as he focused on the night sky. At 42, his life had settled into a predictable rhythm, teaching astronomy at Seabrook University by day, charting stellar patterns by night, and living in the comfortable solitude that had become both his refuge and his prison. Another clear night, he murmured to himself, jotting observations in his worn leather journal. The distant crash of waves against the shore provided a soothing backdrop to his solitary work. Yet something felt off, the same restless anticipation that had plagued him for months. The dreams had started exactly 1 year ago. Each night she appeared a woman with skin the color of twilight, flowing silver-streaked hair and eyes that reflected starlight. She would reach toward him across a landscape that seemed to shift between desert and ocean, speaking words in a melodic language that hovered just beyond his understanding. Theo had never believed in premonitions or supernatural connections, but these dreams carried a weight of reality that left him breathless upon waking. He rubbed his tired eyes and checked his watch. Nearly midnight. His first lecture tomorrow started at 9, yet he knew sleep would only bring her face again. With a sigh, he packed up his equipment and headed inside. The cottage quiet except for the ticking of his grandfather's old clock. After a quick shower, Theo settled into bed, his fingers tracing the sketch he'd made of her face-high cheekbones, almond-shaped eyes, and lips curved in a smile that seemed to hold secrets of distant stars. He'd filled nearly a dozen sketchbooks with her image, trying to capture the essence that eluded him when consciousness returned. "Who are you?" he whispered to the drawing before switching off the lamp. Sleep claimed him quickly, and there she was, standing on what appeared to be a cliff overlooking a violet sea beneath twin moons. "Theo," she said, and this time he understood her. "Time grows short. You speak English now?" he asked, aware he was dreaming yet unable to control his response. She smiled, a gesture that transformed her features from ethereal to warmly familiar. "I've learned your language through our connection. My name is Lyra." "Lyra," he repeated, the name feeling right on his tongue. "What do you want from me?" "Not what I want, what we need from each other." She approached, her movements fluid like water. "Our worlds are entangled, Theo. The barrier thins." "What barrier? I don't understand." "You will," she promised, taking his hands in hers. Her touch felt impossibly real, warm, slightly rough, as though she'd worked with her hands all her life. "Watch for the falling stars." "I'm coming." Theo woke with a jolt, dawn light streaming through his curtains. The dream remained vivid, more vision than fantasy. He reached for his sketchbook and quickly recorded every detail before it could fade. Lyra's name, the twin moons. Her warning about falling stars. His phone buzzed with a news alert. Unprecedented meteor shower predicted tonight. Astronomers baffled by sudden appearance. Theo stared at the screen, his heart racing. The astronomy department would be mobilizing for observation. As the university's leading stellar phenomena expert, he would be expected to lead the team. "Watch for the falling stars," he whispered. Echoing Lyra's words, throughout the day, Theo moved through his lectures in a daze, his mind fixed on the coming night. His teaching assistant, Maya Chen, noticed his distraction during their afternoon lab. "Professor, you seem somewhere else today," she commented, while helping students calibrate their telescopes. "Just thinking about the meteor shower," he replied, not mentioning the dreams or the woman who had become more real to him than many of the people he saw daily as dusk approached. Theo drove to the university observatory at top Seabrook Hill, the highest point for miles. Other faculty members and graduate students were already setting up equipment, an atmosphere of excited anticipation buzzing through the air. "This is unprecedented," his colleague Dr. Harriet Finnegan exclaimed. "No warning from satellite data, no previous debris field tracking. It's as if these meteors appeared from nowhere." "Maybe they did," Theo murmured, positioning his own telescope toward the section of sky where the shower was expected to begin. As darkness fell completely, the first streaks of light appeared, brilliant violet trails cutting across the black canvas of night. Theo held his breath, something deep within him responding to the otherworldly color. The violet meteors intensified, creating ribbons of light that wove patterns across the night sky. While his colleagues exclaimed and recorded data, Theo felt a strange pull toward the cliffside path behind the observatory. Without explanation, he slipped away from the group, drawn by an instinct he couldn't explain. "Professor Merrick, where are you going?" Maya called after him. But her voice faded as he descended the narrow trail illuminated by the purple glow overhead. The path wound down toward a small cove, rarely visited even in daylight. As he rounded the final bend, Theo froze. There, standing on a rock outcropping with her face tilted toward the meteor shower, was the woman from his dreams, Lyra. Her violet skin shimmered under the celestial light, silver-streaked hair flowing around her shoulders in the coastal breeze. "Impossible," he whispered. But the word had barely left his lips when she turned to face him. "Theo," she said, her voice exactly as he remembered from his dreams. "You came." He approached cautiously, his scientific mind racing to explain what couldn't possibly be real. "You're actually here." "The convergence allowed my passage," she explained, stepping down from the rocks with graceful movements. "Our worlds align only once every century, when the celestial veils thin, close." Lyra appeared both alien and familiar, her eyes reflecting starlight just as they had in his dreams. But now he could see the subtle patterns etched into her violet skin, like constellations mapped across her features. "I should be terrified," Theo admitted, "or questioning my sanity. But I've seen you every night for a year. I've been reaching for you just as long," she replied, extending her hand. After a moment's hesitation, he took it, feeling the same warmth he'd experienced in his dreams. "Our minds connected across the void first. It happens rarely, but some souls resonate across dimensions." From the observatory above, voices called Theo's name. The meteor shower was intensifying, creating a spectacular display that had drawn everyone outside. "We don't have much time," Lyra said urgently. "The alignment will fade by dawn." "Time for what? Why are you here?" Her expression grew solemn. "My world, Nyx, is dying. The energy cores that maintain our atmospheric shield are failing. Without help, my people will perish within months. But what can I do? I'm just an astronomy professor." Lyra's eyes searched his face. "Your work on quantum field theory applied to celestial bodizite contains the solution we need. In my world, you're known as the theorist whose work could save us. If only you existed there." The voices from above grew closer. Theo made a quick decision, leading Lyra along a hidden path that curved around the hillside toward his cottage. "I have 1,000 questions," he said as they hurried through the darkness. "As do I," she replied. "But first, we must avoid detection. My presence here could cause complications neither of our worlds is ready for." By the time they reached his cottage, the meteor shower was beginning to fade. Inside, Theo watched in fascination as Lyra moved around his living room, examining his books and the star charts pinned to the walls. "These are my dreams," she said, picking up one of his sketchbooks filled with drawings of her. "You've been seeing me as clearly as I've seen you." Theo nodded, still struggling to reconcile the woman from his dreams with the extraordinary being standing in his living room. "How long can you stay?" 3 days, perhaps 4. When the celestial alignment ends, I must return or be stranded forever." She looked at him intently. "We have that long to adapt your theoretical work into something I can take back to save my world." As dawn approached, Theo set up the spare bedroom for Lyra, though neither felt much like sleeping. They spent hours poring over his research papers, Lyra explaining how the physics of her world differed subtly from his own. In the soft morning light, Theo found himself studying her face, no longer just a dream, but a reality more extraordinary than he could have imagined. When their eyes met, something electric passed between them, a recognition deeper than mere familiarity. "Should rest," he said finally. "Tomorrow, we'll continue." As he turned to leave, Lyra caught his hand. "In my world, there's a belief that souls find each other across all barriers of time and space. Perhaps that's what happened with us." Theo felt the truth of her words resonate through him. "Perhaps it is," he whispered, reluctantly pulling away to seek his own rest.
Knowing that his life had irreversibly changed the moment she stepped from his dreams into reality.
3 days passed in a blur of intense work and increasingly intimate conversations. Theo called in sick to the university, ignoring concerned messages from colleagues as he and Lyra merged their knowledge. His living room transformed into a workshop of formulas, diagrams, and makeshift models built from household items. "The fundamental principle is sound," Lyra said on the afternoon of the third day, her fingers tracing equations Theo had written. "Your theory about energy transference across quantum boundaries is exactly what we need to regenerate our atmospheric shield." They sat close together on his worn sofa, papers spread around them. Outside, rain pattered against the windows, creating a cocoon of isolation that made their unusual partnership feel strangely normal. "It's still theoretical," Theo cautioned. "I've never been able to prove it would work in practice. On Nyx, we have the technology to implement it, just not the theoretical framework." She smiled. "Together, we complete the solution." Theo leaned back, studying her face. Over these days, he'd learned to read her expressions, the subtle flicker in her eyes when she was processing complex information, the slight tilt of her head when something puzzled her. "Tell me more about Nyx," he said, setting aside the work momentarily. "About your life there." Lyra's expression softened. "My home lies near the eastern mountains, where crystal formations capture the light of our twin moons. I'm a resonance engineer. I work with the energy fields that once protected our world." She paused. "Before the degradation began, it was beautiful beyond words. Now, sections of our world become uninhabitable each season as the shield fails. Your family." "Lost my parents in the first major shield collapse." Grief flickered across her features. "My sister Mira leads the evacuation efforts for affected regions. She thinks my mission to find you is hopeless. Yet here you are," Theo said softly, "defying impossibility." "As are you," she replied, her hand finding his. "A theoretical astronomer who dreamed of another world and believed enough to recognize me when I appeared." The contact between them sent waves of warmth up Theo's arm. Their eyes met and held, the connection between them deepening beyond shared intellectual curiosity into something more profound. Almost unconsciously, they leaned toward each other. Their first kiss was tentative, exploratory, the meeting of two beings separated by universes yet drawn inexorably together. When they pulled apart, Lyra's skin glowed with a subtle luminescence that hadn't been visible before. "That's beautiful," Theo whispered, tracing the patterns of light that appeared on her cheek. "It's how my people express strong emotion," she explained, her voice hushed. "A biological response I cannot control." "I don't want you to control it," he said, drawing her closer again. That night, as rain continued to drum against the roof, their connection deepened into physical intimacy that transcended their different origins. In the darkness of Theo's bedroom, luminous patterns on Lyra's skin cast a gentle glow that mapped the contours of their entwined forms. Every touch between them seemed to bridge the gap between worlds, creating a shared space that belonged neither to Earth nor to Nyx, but uniquely to them. Afterward, lying together in the quiet, Theo faced the truth he'd been avoiding. "The alignment ends tomorrow, doesn't it?" Lyra nodded against his chest. "At sunset, I must return, or remain stranded here forever." "Would that be so terrible?" he asked, immediately regretting the selfish question. "My people are dying, Theo," she replied softly. "I cannot abandon them, even for ... She didn't finish the sentence, but her fingers tightened around his. "I know," he sighed. "I just can't bear the thought of losing you, now that I've found you." Lyra rose on one elbow, her silver-streaked hair falling around them like a curtain. The luminous patterns across her violet skin pulsed gently. "There is another possibility," she said carefully. "You could come with me, to Nyx." Theo sat up, startled. "Is that even possible?" "The same passage that brought me here could take you back, but the choice would be irreversible." Her eyes were serious in the dim light. "You would leave behind everything you know, everyone you love." "I cannot ask that of you." "You didn't ask," he replied, his mind racing with implications. "I need to think, of course." She touched his face gently. "Whatever you decide, what we've created together will save countless lives." As dawn approached, Theo stood at his window watching the rain give way to clearing skies. Behind him, Lyra slept peacefully, her breathing a gentle reminder of the impossible reality they'd shared. By sunset, she would be there alone or with him. Alongside her into an unknown future on a dying world, the weight of decision pressed upon him. A choice between the comfortable life he'd built and an extraordinary leap into the unknown. Following a woman who had first appeared to him in dreams, but now held his heart in reality. The final day dawned clear and bright, as if the universe itself was wiping away all obstacles for what lay ahead. Theo moved through the morning in a state of heightened awareness, conscious of each passing hour that brought them closer to the moment of decision. The return portal will form at Starfall Point, the same place where I arrived, Lyra explained as they packed the completed theoretical models and equations into a waterproof case. We must be there by sunset. Theo nodded, his thoughts elsewhere. I need to go to the university first. There are things I must take care of. ... just in case. They drove to campus together. Lyra disguised in his hooded jacket and sunglasses, her unusual skin tone attributed to an elaborate costume for a visiting theater performer when questioned. While she waited in his office, Theo made his way to the quantum physics lab, where his research was stored. Professor Merrick, there you are. Maya intercepted him in the hallway. Everyone's been looking for you since the meteor shower. Dr. Finnegan is furious you disappeared. I'm sorry about that, he said, genuinely apologetic. Something urgent came up. Her perceptive eyes studied his face. Is everything all right? You seem ... different. For a moment, Theo considered telling her everything about Lyra, about Nyx, about the impossible choice he faced. Instead, he merely smiled. I've had a breakthrough on my theoretical work. It changes everything, Maya. It's wonderful. When will you publish? I'm not sure yet, he replied, thinking of the knowledge that would travel to another dimension by nightfall. But I want you to have this. He handed her a flash drive. It's all my research notes. If anything happens to me, make sure they find the right hands. What do you mean if anything happens? Concern edged her voice. Theo squeezed her shoulder reassuringly. Just a precaution. Scientists always prepare for contingencies, right? After gathering essential research materials and signing a 6-month sabbatical request that he left on the department chair's desk, Theo returned to find Lyra studying the star maps on his office wall. Your constellations are so different from ours, she commented as they left. Yet mathematics remains the universal language. They spent their remaining hours walking the coastal path, Lyra absorbing the sights and sounds of Earth while Theo pointed out places that had been significant in his life. The beach where he'd first become fascinated with astronomy as a child, the cliffside bench where he'd written his doctoral thesis. If I go with you, he said as they sat watching waves crash against the shore, what would my life be like there? Lyra took his hand, her violet fingers intertwining with his. Different, but not entirely. Our sciences would welcome you. Your work would be revolutionary, but I cannot promise comfort or as our world struggles daily for survival, and us. He asked the question that had lingered between them. Her skin brightened with those luminous patterns he'd come to adore. On Nyx, when souls find each other across barriers, the bond is considered sacred. What we've found in days would normally develop over years, yet I feel as though I've known you across lifetimes. Theo brushed his fingers against her cheek, watching the patterns respond to his touch. Perhaps we have known each other that long. How else could you appear in my dreams for a year before we met? As the sun began its descent toward the horizon, they made their way to Starfall Point. The secluded cove where Lyra had first appeared was empty save for the lapping waves and circling seabirds. They stood at the water's edge, the case containing their work clutched tightly in Lyra's hands. It's nearly time, she said, her voice steady, though her eyes betrayed her emotion. Have you decided? Theo looked back toward the path leading to town, to his cottage filled with books and telescopes, to the university where his career flourished, to the predictable life he'd built over 4 decades. Then he turned to Lyra, this extraordinary woman who had stepped from dreams into reality, and in doing so, awakened parts of himself he hadn't known existed. If I stay, I'll spend every night for the rest of my life dreaming of you in a world I never dared to imagine, he said slowly. Science has always taught me to explore the unknown, to seek answers beyond conventional understanding. He took a deep breath. I'm coming with you. The joy that illuminated her face was worth every doubt, every fear. Lyra embraced him fiercely as the setting sun touched the horizon, casting long golden rays across the water. It begins, she whispered, pointing to where the air above a flat rock formation began to shimmer with violet light, the same color as the meteors that had heralded her arrival. Theo felt a moment of panic as the reality of his decision crashed over him. He was about to leave everything forever. No return, no second chances. Second thoughts? Lyra asked gently, reading his expression. No, he replied, surprising himself with his certainty. Just saying goodbye. As the shimmering intensified, forming what appeared to be a vertical tear in reality, Lyra extended her hand. We must enter together. The passage recognizes biological signatures and pairs a safety mechanism. Theo took one last look at the world he had known, committing to memory the feeling of ocean breeze on his skin, the call of gulls overhead, the golden glow of sunset on familiar shores. Then he clasped Lyra's hand firmly in his, and together they stepped into the violet light. The passage between worlds felt like diving into an ocean of stars. Theo experienced a momentary sensation of dissolving, as if his very atoms were being unmade and then reconstructed in a new pattern. Colors beyond anything he had words for swept past his consciousness. Throughout it all, Lyra's hand remained firm in his, an anchor in the swirling chaos. Then, abruptly, solid ground materialized beneath his feet. Breathe slowly, Lyra's voice came through the disorientation. Your body is adjusting to our atmosphere. Theo opened his eyes to a world bathed in the light of twin moons, one silver, one with a distinct blue tinge. They stood on a crystalline platform overlooking a valley where structures unlike any human. Architecture rose like frozen waves against the night sky. In the distance, a dome of shimmering energy covered part of the horizon. Beyond it, barren wasteland stretched ominously. Welcome to Nyx, Lyra said softly. The air felt slightly denser than Earth's, carrying scents of unfamiliar minerals and vegetation. Theo's scientific mind cataloged differences even as his emotions struggled to comprehend that he had actually crossed to another dimension. It's beautiful, he managed, though the words seemed woefully inadequate. Lyra, a voice called from nearby. A woman with the same violet skin, but shorter, copper-streaked hair hurried toward them. You actually returned on with a... She stopped, staring at Theo with undisguised shock. Mira, this is Professor Theo Merrick. Lyra introduced them. The theoretical physicist I saw in my resonance visions. Theo, my sister Myra. Myra circled him cautiously, her expression shifting from suspicion to wonder. An off-worlder who came willingly. The council will have much to discuss. She turned to Lyra. Did you find the solution? Lyra held up the case containing their work. We did. Together. The following days passed in a whirlwind of adaptation. Theo was presented to the Council of Nyx 7 Elders, whose skepticism gradually gave way to hope as he and Lyra explained their theoretical breakthrough. The Nyxian scientists, initially doubtful that an off-worlder could contribute to their advanced technology, soon recognized that his outside perspective provided exactly the innovation their own approaches had lacked. The shield restoration could begin within weeks, the chief resonance engineer announced after 3 days of intensive analysis. This work may save not just the current protected zones, but allow us to reclaim territories lost to atmospheric degradation. Privately, Theo struggled with the physical adjustments to Nyxan life. The gravity was slightly stronger, requiring more effort for each movement. The food's nutrient-rich but strange in texture and taste caused digestive discomfort. Most challenging was the day cycle. With twin moons, true darkness never fell, leaving him disoriented and sleepless. Your body will adapt, Lyra assured him as they lay in her dwelling, structure carved partially into living crystal that hummed with subtle energy. The cellular modifications began the moment you crossed the threshold. Modifications? He questioned, suddenly alarmed. She traced the patterns forming on his skin, faint, but undeniably similar to her own luminous markings. The passage alters biological structures to survive in the host dimension. Did you think you could exist here unchanged? I didn't consider it, he admitted. There was only you and the decision to follow. Her expression softened as she kissed him, the contact sending waves of light cascading across both their bodies now. What you've sacrificed humbles me, Theo, to leave your world, your life. I've gained more than I've lost, he replied, though in quiet moments, memories of Earth, the smell of coffee, the sound of rain on his cottage roof brought unexpected pangs of homesickness. By the 14th day on Nyx, their theoretical work had been translated into practical application. Theo stood with Lyra and Mira on an observation platform as the first test of the modified shield generator began. A beam of concentrated energy shot skyward, expanding into a web of iridescent light that melded seamlessly with the existing barrier. It's working, Mira breathed, clutching readouts from monitoring stations. The resonance patterns are stabilizing across all frequencies. The gathered scientists and officials erupted in celebration, many approaching to clasp Theo's hands in the Nyxian gesture of profound gratitude. Through it all, Lyra remained by his side, her pride evident in the brilliant patterns flowing across her skin. That night, as they watched the shield strengthening overhead, Lyra asked the question that had lingered between them since their arrival. Do you regret your choice? Theo considered carefully before answering. I miss certain things. I worry about being truly useful here once the shield crisis is resolved. I wonder if I'll ever fully belong. He turned to face her, taking both her hands in his. But when I see you, when I feel this connection between a sigh, know I'm exactly where I'm meant to be. 3 months later, Theo stood again at the passage point, where he had first arrived on Nyx. The enhanced shield now covered nearly 80% of the planet's inhabited regions. With expansion continuing daily, he had earned a position on the Scientific Council, his off-worlder perspective now valued for the innovation it brought to Nyxian research. The passage would open briefly during the celestial alignment of phenomenon that occurred quarterly at reduced strength. Not enough for physical transfer, but sufficient for information exchange. Theo had prepared data crystals containing messages for Maya, instructions for continuing his work on Earth, and personal goodbyes to the few close friends he'd left behind. Are you ready? Lyra asked, joining him at the crystal platform. The subtle luminous patterns that now permanently marked Theo's skin responded to her presence, brightening as they always did when she was near. As ready as I'll ever be, he replied, the hint of his Earth's accent one of the few remaining traces of his origin. Together, they activated the resonance field. A small shimmer appeared, nothing like the full portal, but enough to send his message across the dimensional barrier. As the data crystals dissolved into the shimmer, Theo felt a sense of closure, his old life acknowledged and honored, yet firmly in the past. Come, Lyra said when the transmission was complete, extending her hand. The Council awaits our presentation on cross-dimensional resonance fields. And after, Mira has planned a celebration for our formal bonding ceremony. Theo took her hand. Their matched luminous patterns creating intricate designs where their skin touched, visible manifestation of the connection that had transcended dreams. Dimensions and seemingly impossible barriers. Lead the way, he said, turning from the closed passage point toward the city that was becoming home. Above them, the strengthened shield glimmered with promise of a future neither of them could have imagined alone, which they had dared to create together. As they walked the crystal path toward their shared destiny, Theo reflected that some dreams weren't meant to remain in the realm of sleep. Some were meant to be lived, no matter how far across the universe or beyond it they might lead.